We just got done witnessing one of the best playoff performances in NBA history, and I mean that with no exaggeration. One of the best performances in playoff history. The Bucks just lost to the Miami Heat, or I should say, to give them some respect, the Miami Heat just beat the Bucks 4-1 in 5 games in the first round of the playoffs. First time in one of the very few times, I'll say, because I don't know the number off the top of my head, in NBA history that an eighth seed has beat a 1 seed. The first time in NBA history that a play-in team has won a series. And I'm going to keep it a bean. We might see the second one sometime in the coming days. We're looking at the Lakers. I'd be wrong if I didn't talk about Jimmy first. So that's what we're going to do, because he's the heart and soul of this Miami Heat team. Jimmy Butler in the playoffs, you can easily, and it's not even an argument. You don't have to argue it. You can just flat out make a statement. Jimmy Butler's the best player in the NBA. When it's playoff time, you can make that statement. You don't got to put a comma behind it. You don't got to put an explanation behind it. You could just simply say, Jimmy Butler's the best player in the NBA. And there's no need for pushback, because it's not a crazy statement to say. 42 points in this game 5, from 51% from the field, 24 of those points in the second half. And one of the things that we love so much in game 4, that step back jumper, the pull up 3, him getting to his spots off the dribble. Well, in game 5, he did some of that still, don't get me wrong. But in game 5, a lot of cuts. Cutting off of backdoor screens, cutting off of screens, going towards the basket, catching the ball in the paint, finishing strong. With Bam at the top of the key, we'll talk about that some more in a second. Simply refusing to give up. The Bucks were up 12 in the beginning of the fourth quarter, 12 or 14 in the beginning of the fourth quarter. And now, while, of course, a 12-point game with a whole 12 minutes to play, the game ain't over by any means. Don't get me wrong. The game really ain't over. But it's like the Bucks had the blueprint. Like, it was the Bucks game to lose, and Miami won it. Talking trash to Drew Holiday in the fourth quarter. Y'all are down. They're down 2 points. That's why I love Jimmy, because Jimmy going to be Jimmy regardless of what the circumstances are in the moment that us as fans might see. Jimmy's like, no, we can win this game. He's talking trash to Drew. He's telling Drew I own you, telling I'm scoring on your head, telling Drew he can't guard me. This is Drew Holiday he's talking to, telling he can't guard him. Absolutely insane, right? Jimmy, I just said it. You can make the argument for him in the playoffs, best player in the league, right? 22 points per game in the regular season. 33rd highest scorer in the regular season. 33rd ranked. That's where he's ranked. You rank all the players in the terms of the scoring. He's 33rd in the NBA. In the playoffs, over these past 5 games in this first round, he's the number 1 scorer in the NBA, scoring 37 points a game. Jimmy G buckets. He's been absolutely amazing this series. We're going to have to make a separate video even forecasting what the Knicks series would look like, because there's just so much I want to talk about from specifically this Miami Heat series. I alluded to it before. I want to talk about Bam Adebayo. 2 things from Bam. One, we talk about Bam a lot throughout the regular season, throughout the playoffs, in previous years. It's one of the things, Anthony Davis too, to an extent. We say we want these type of players. We want Bam to do more offensively. We always say Bam needs to do more. The Heat need Bam to score more offensively, to be more aggressive on those shots. And while I agree at times, the reason the Miami Heat paid Bam Adebayo what they pay him is to play amazing defense. You tell me the last time you saw somebody be able to legitimately stop Giannis Antetokounmpo 1-on-1. No help. Bam was guarding Giannis 1-on-1 for not necessarily the whole game in this series, not necessarily the entire games of these series, but when it came down to crunch time, those fourth quarters, these overtimes, it was Bam locking up Giannis, right? In the fourth quarter of game 5, yes, did Giannis end with either 38, 39 points? Yeah, he did. But he went 1 for 9 in the fourth quarter. He went 1 for 9 in the fourth quarter. In that game 4, he went 1 for 4 in that fourth quarter. And 2 out of those 3 stops were Bam. I think one was a Bam block even. Once again, 1-on-1. The other one was Jimmy Butler getting the stop. And this 1 for 9 from Giannis in this game, most of them were Bam Adebayo stops. And once again, another stop was from Jimmy Butler. He was absolutely phenomenal defensively against Giannis. I promise you, I don't think I've ever seen someone being able to legitimately guard Giannis 1-on-1. And what I mean by guard is not be there and contain him and make the shot tough and Giannis still make the bucket, or instead of Giannis being like 7 for 9, you made him like 4 for 9 or 5 for 9. No, 1 for 9 and a quarter when his team was up 12 in an elimination game. Bam Adebayo, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, one thing that was great about Bam offensively was 2 things in that game 5. It might be game 5 or game 4. They're kind of blending together for me, so you have to forgive me. There were a couple of times where it was either Jimmy put up a shot or say like Caleb Martin put up a shot. If a shot was off, there were 2 specific ones I can remember where Bam got the putback dunk late in the 4th just to keep the Miami's momentum going. That's just him being active. Him being aggressive, him crashing the boards and trying to find ways to score for his team off them offensive putbacks. Absolutely amazing, just high energy plays. The other thing that was amazing from Bam offensively, outside of his scoring, he still, scored the ball solidly this series, but outside of scoring the ball, one of the things that was amazing in the 4th quarter of this game, I alluded to it earlier when I was talking about some Jimmy did not have the ball as much in his hands as much in the 4th. It's because they let Bam bring the ball up. They let Bam, and it was calm too, because Brooke wasn't pressing him, so he had all the space in the world to make the passes he needed. And Jimmy cutting back door, curling off a screen, finding an open shooter. Bam ended that game with a triple-double, y'all. He ended the game with 10 assists. Bam did an amazing job of facilitating, not playing rushed. Because, and yes, it's not unlike the Miami Heat having given him the ball in spurts throughout the regular season. Honestly, over the last couple of years, he's been a very good playmaker out of the high post. And you can call me a casual, say I'm not watching enough Miami Heat games, but at least when I watch them, like I said, it's usually out of the high post. No, we inbounding the ball to Bam. He bringing it up from the backcourt, slowly walking it up. We taking our time. Yes, we're down, but we're being methodical. We're taking our time. We're poised. Oh, that's a good word. The Miami Heat were so poised in that 4th quarter, just being able to take their time, understanding the moment, and just getting buckets. And also ability to Bam to even honestly have the energy to remain poised after battling Giannis. Like, it was literally like, battle Giannis, get an amazing stop. Okay, now let's slow it down. Bam, bring it up. Jimmy, cut back door, lay. Like, that's a couple of them possessions in the 4th were that methodical, right? I got to give some love to Eric Spoelstra. We alluded to it in the beginning. Eric Spoelstra, if you didn't think he was one of the greatest coaches of all time, I hope you saw it today. I hope you saw it in this series, how great of a coach he is. One, couple of things. Consistently outcoach Budenholzer, and we will get to Budenholzer later. Absolutely coach circles around that man. The off-ball plays for Jimmy, absolutely beautiful. Having the wherewithal and the trust in Bam to be like, okay, Bam, you bring the ball up, you run some of the offense. Beautiful. The inbound lob pass. Who even comes up with that? Do y'all practice that? Is that a play y'all practiced before? Or do your players just trust you enough to be like, yo, coach says do this. We're going to do this ring around the rosy and I'm going to throw a lob over the top. And then trusting Bam to be able to guard Giannis one-on-one. And the caveat there too is emphasizing that point of emphasis enough to have your players alert enough that if a switch does happen, if for some reason Bam isn't guarding Giannis, to bring the double immediately if Giannis gets the ball in the post. If it was Bam guarding Giannis in the post, everybody was staying home on shooters. Bam was able to get that stop. You know what I mean? Off to the races. If for some reason there was a switch, there was a couple of times when Vincent was on Giannis. Butler, honestly, he was even letting go one-on-one against Giannis from time to time. But if anybody else ended up on Giannis in the post, immediate double team to get it out of his hands. And the double team came from different spots. It didn't always have to come down from the same corner. Sometimes it came over from the far corner and snuck around. Sometimes it came down from the top of the key. Just the ability to have your players be able to trust your schemes that well and execute your schemes that well. Eric Spoelstra, hands down, phenomenal. I think it's understood at this point. I think sometimes he's overlooked because he might not have the rings that some of the other Hall of Fame great coaches have. Like the quantity of rings. We know he got rings, but the quantity of rings. But when you watch an Eric Spoelstra coach team, it's just different. We talk about all the time about Miami Heat culture. Heat culture starts at the top because Heat culture, to an extent, ain't changed. It was hard-nosed culture from the D-Wade era to now. It's just been a hard-nosed culture ever since Spoelstra has been there. Back when you go back to the Heatles days when LeBron was on there, it was the same similar culture we've been talking about for, at this rate, over 10 years. Shout out to Spoelstra, man. Shout out to Spoelstra. And we got to talk about the other guys, because every person, every role player showed up for Miami at some point in this series. Gabe Vincent had 22 points, including 4 threes and a big one down the stretch, that crazy big one down the stretch when they're down 4, 12 seconds left. He just bring the ball down and pull. And at first, I'm like, yo, what you doing? And it's Cash. And when I tell you, no one on the Miami Heat were locked in. When he hit that 3, no one looked at him like, what are you doing? Why are you taking this? No one looked like shocked that he pulled up for that. No one even reacted when he made it. It was kind of like, we expect you to shoot that. We expect you to make that. And then we expect you to get back on defense. Kevin Love was good in this game as well. 15 points, all threes. He was 5 for 11 from 3. He was letting it fly, but he was hitting them. I saw a tweet the other day. I think it might have been last night. Twitter was going crazy. I stayed up to 2 a.m. literally scrolling on Twitter. It was insane. Kevin Love might have been the biggest trade deadline pickup of the offseason. Of this season. Biggest trade deadline pickup of the offseason might have been Kevin Love, because his impact. Also, Spoelstra, the thought process to be like, hey, for these last couple of games 3, 4, and 5, we're going to insert Kevin Love into the starting lineup because we need some more shooting and rebounding. And it worked out. K-Love was getting to the boards. He was knocking down some open threes, and it allowed some more spacing for Jimmy and Bam to go to work. Caleb Martin had 15 points in game 1. Duncan Robinson came into game 3. We ain't seen Duncan Robinson. And I feel like we said Duncan Robinson all year. Might have been like a year and a half, it feels like, since we really saw Duncan Robinson get some real playing time, some real PT, some real burn in the game. He had 20 points in game 3. He was 5 for 6 from 3. Everybody showed up for the Miami Heat. And it goes to, and I got to, make a note to this. Tyler Hero and Victor Oladipo go down with an injury. My heart goes out to both of them, but especially Victor Oladipo, going through so many injuries over the last 5 or so seasons of his career. But the Miami Heat are without. When Tyler Hero went down in game 1, yes, we'll get the Giannis being out as well, and we'll talk about if that has any implications on how people see this series. But when Tyler Hero went down, y'all know me. I was saying all offseason, Miami ain't got enough offense. Miami ain't got enough offense. They don't got enough people who can score the basket. And then you lose one of your 20-point scorers in Tyler Hero. I'm like, yo, Miami definitely got enough offense now. But everybody else stepped up. Everybody stepped up for them. The Heat were on fire from 3. Listen, no one who shot more than 4 threes a game. So all the people, it was like 6 people, I want to say, in the Miami Heat this series that shot or attempted at least 4 threes a game. Right. At least 6 people attempted over 4 threes a game. And out of those people who attempted over 4 threes a game, none of them shot less than 40% from 3. The team shot 45% from 3. In the regular season, they were the 27th worst 3-point shooting team in the NBA. They were the 27th worst 3-point shooting team in the NBA, and now they shot 45% from 3 in this series. Now, is that sustainable going into a series with the Knicks? I'm going to keep it a bean. I do not know. But when I tell you, it wasn't like guys were shooting up prayers. They were taking confident shots that were good looks, and they were hitting them. Now, if they could continue to do that, like I said, we ain't going to get into the preview for the Knicks and stuff, but, if they continue to do that throughout the series, that Knicks series is going to be close. I'm going to tell y'all that off the rip. Overall, the Miami Heat, absolutely amazing in this series. And I wanted to talk about them first because I had a lot of praise for them. But I also got a lot of criticism about the Bucks. Let's talk about them real quick. We got to start at the top with Giannis. So, yes, he does get injured in game 1. Early in game 1, he only played about 10 minutes. He gets injured with like a minute have been played in the second quarter. So he misses all the rest of game 1. He's out for game 2 and game 3. And during that time span, the Bucks go, 2-1. They win game 2. Lose game 1, lose game 3. But looking back at that game one, because I just wanted to look, because I know some people are going to try to be like, oh well, they beat him without Giannis. It's not the same. I'm like, they ain't have Tyler Hero either. So that's why I'm like, well, it kind of, because if, for example, if the Bucks didn't have, if Giannis was there, the Bucks don't have either Chris Middleton or Drew, and the Heat still win, or excuse me, because I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, Giannis didn't play. Is there an asterisk there? My counter argument is the Heat didn't have Tyler Hero. My second counter argument is the Bucks still could have won game one, people, because the Heat won game one in the first quarter. In the first quarter of game one, the Bucks outscored the Heat by 9. In the first quarter of game one, the Heat outscored the Bucks by 9, right? Both teams scored 62 points in the second half. Both teams scored 62 in the second half. The Heat outscored the Bucks by 9. Jimmy came out the gate punching. Like, it's very similar to game 4, not to that crazy extent when he had like 20-something in the first, but he had 14 in the first. The Heat ended up winning game 5 by 4. The Heat ended up winning game 1 by 14 points. The Heat outscored the Bucks by 4 in a second. I'll give you that. But when Giannis was on the floor and playing, the Heat still, and game 1 came out ready and outscored the Bucks by 9. To me, that is a huge tone setter. That was a tone setter for the series, because it showed me that the Heat were like, yo, we're not scared of y'all. Jimmy's like, I'm not scared of you, Giannis. I want this matchup. We're going to win this matchup. We're not scared of you. And so coming out, attacking first. Giannis and the Bucks did not attack first. They looked real reactionary in that first quarter. They lost the lead, down by 9. You get outscored by 4 again in the second, and then you tie in the second half. So that's why part of me is like, well, the Heat came out ready. I guess you can, quote unquote, make the argument. Yeah, if Giannis was there, what if it's different? They only tied in the second half, so maybe, you know what I mean? Giannis gives them the extra push to get them to win in that second half. But Giannis was there in the first. And to me, the game was lost in the first quarter. He missed the games 2 and 3, like we talked about. The Bucks win game 2. And I think we got to at least address the injury was there, lower back butt situation. It was a lower back contusion, I want to say, was the actual injury, which is basically like just he got hit real hard in his back and he might have a little bruise or something, and it hurts a lot. But there was all the times you see the clips, they got the Theragun on his butt, trying to give him a massage to alleviate some of that pain. So I'm sure he was playing through injury. I'm sure he was playing through some pain. I'm not trying to make it an excuse, but in the same breath, Giannis went from 31 points in the regular season, 5th highest scorer in the league, to 23 points in the playoffs. It really feel like, in terms of scoring, him and Jimmy did an absolute flip-flop. Absolute flip-flop. What this series proved to me is, with the right personnel, you might be able to guard Giannis one-on-one down the stretch. Now, it ain't that many teams that's got the right personnel. Let's be real here. It ain't that many teams that's got the right personnel. But if Bam did it, I don't. Jaren Jackson Jr. might be able to do it in like a year or two. If Evan Mobley put on some weight and get a little bit better defensively, might be able to do it in a year or two. If Pascal Siakam was a little more defensive minded and defensive oriented, I mean, he is, don't get me wrong, but I think Giannis is just stronger than him. Like, there's a couple of guys in the league that there's a blueprint where you're like, hold on, Miami, we seeing some things here. You putting this on game. There's a couple of guys who might be able to do this, or at least we're willing to try it every now and then to mix some things up defensively. And it's just came to me. This was in my notes. Very similar to how, I want to say that was 2020 in the bubble, when the Miami Heat built the wall, and it was like, oh, everybody, it was the first time anybody ever seen like basically a whole wall built up to go against Giannis. And then the Celtics did it, and then Giannis figured out how to get around the wall, yada, yada, yada. But now we're back, and the Miami Heat's like, oh no, we don't need the wall this time. We just need Bam. So I'm very curious to see coming next season if more teams try to implement something like that, of guarding him, trying to guard him differently. And I realize it's not going to be easy, because Bam's a world-class one in a million type defender with his ability of the mix of his strength, agility, and just defensive smarts. Like you can't underestimate. Just a guy can have the ability, he can have the physical attributes, but if he's not smart defensively, it ain't gonna be there. Let's moving to the end of Game 5 for Giannis. Moving to the end of Game 5 for Giannis. Throughout the series, it was apparent Giannis was struggling for the free throw line. Everybody talked about how Giannis, I want to say he was not, he misses we all know he missed a ton of free throws in that Game 5. He's scared at that tip off, at the tip off, the jump ball situation. He's scared to even get fouled, almost throws the ball out of bounds. Luckily, Chris Middleton saves it. Jrue Holiday ends up getting fouled. But in the regular season, Giannis shoots 64% from three. Not amazing, but I mean, it's over 50%, and Giannis ain't a great free throw shooter. We know this. In this series, he shot 45% from three. 45% from three. The third quarter, Game 4, we already talked about this. 3 points, 1 for 4. Bam got 2 stops. Jimmy got 1 stop. The fourth quarter of Game 5, we talked about this too. 4 points, 1 for 9 from the field. Bam, one-on-one coverage. I can't even make the argument that the game plan was just stop Giannis and let the other guys eat. Because we've heard that be the game plan sometimes for teams that are trying to stop the superstar. Be like, yo, the random guy going to have to beat us because we're going to do everything we can to stop we're going to throw 2, throw 3 at the main guy. Very similar to how the Nets, played against the Sixers. They threw 2 at Giannis. Threw 2 at Joel almost all the time. But guys like Maxey, PJ Tucker, Tobias Harris, they was hitting the open threes. The Heat was like, nah, we don't need to have that mindset of we just going to throw everything at Giannis. My point is Giannis had one-on-one coverage. It's not like Giannis was getting doubled and tripled the entire series. He just got exposed. And it's crazy to say, because I'm one of them people. Giannis been the best player in the league the last 3 seasons in my book. If Joel Embiid is my guy, if you'd asked me who the best player in the league, I probably would have said Giannis the last 3 seasons, right? And this is looking real reminiscent to KD against the Celtics last year. This is a bad way to go out, Giannis. This is a bad way to go out. A lot of people ain't going to talk about it. I don't think you're going to get as much slander on Twitter because, one, people like you. You ain't really done nothing to make a lot of people dislike you outside of, you get a lot of foul calls. Some people don't like your style of play. But you're a likable guy. So I don't think you're going to get the OD slander. But this is a horrible way to go out. 1 for 9 in the fourth quarter when y'all had a 12-point lead. Crazy. Let's talk about the other guys. Jrue Holiday. A couple weeks ago, I make a video saying how great Jrue Holiday's been offensively for the Bucks, saying he's had his best offensive season as the Milwaukee Bucks. Highest points, most threes he's ever shot, while still maintaining around 37% from three. Off the top of my head, I might have that off by a percentage or two, but high 30s, mid to high 30s on 7 to 8 attempts a game. And in this series, offense was just not there. Offense was just not there at all. Like, offense was not there at all. Now, granted, it's probably because he was exhausted guarding Jimmy Butler. I mean, absolutely exhausted guarding Jimmy Butler, especially in Game 4 and Game 5. Jimmy's getting buckets down the stretch. He looks tired, especially in that Game 5. Not necessarily looking tired, but it looked like to me Jimmy was getting in his head a little bit. He looked visibly frustrated when Jimmy's getting buckets and saying, you can't guard me. It's not often I feel like that NBA players tell Jrue Holiday to his face, you can't guard me, or on your head, or like just going crazy. People don't talk smack to Jrue. At least you don't visibly see it on a camera, people talking smack to Jrue, because Jrue usually locking people up. But it's not that Drew's a bad defender. Don't get me wrong here, nothing like that. But I do think Coach Bud, and we can talk about him in a little bit, should have made some adjustments defensively. Should have gotten Jrue off of Jimmy sometime in those fourth quarters. Put Chris Middleton on him. Put Giannis on him. Giannis even said in his post-game presser after Game 5, I wanted to play on defense with Jimmy more, but out of respect for the coaches wanted Jrue on him, so that's what we went with. That was the game plan. Listen, Giannis, I know we offer you when we moved on to some of the other guys. If you're going to be the guy, right? If we talk about you as this great two-way guy, you just got to say, bump what coach talk about. Jrue, you slide over to somebody else. We gonna make this work on the court with what we got. But I'm picking up Jimmy because we got to put a Band-Aid on it somehow, and they simply could not. Drew Holiday was 28% from 3 on 8 attempts a game, 40% from the field. For the regular season, I want to say he was around like 35 to 38% from 3. Just could not hit an open shot. Could not hit his shots this series. Shout out to Brook Lopez. Low-key had a solid series. He had that game, I can't remember if it was game 3 or game 4. I might be wrong off altogether on which game it was, but he had that game. He had 36. It was 4 for 7 from 3, and he looked solid, really solid in the pick and rolls. I was liking what I was seeing for him. It was kind of like, Brook Lopez, what a career, man. Chris Middleton. If you look at the box score, it felt like he had a solid series. 28 points per game for the series on 40% from 3. But not to be nitpicky, in the second half of game 4, he was 3 for 10. Like, there just was always something. There was just always something. Just like I said, and this closeout game 5, Giannis has 38, but he was what did we look up? 1 for 9 in the second half? Like, if you just look at the box score, it'd be looking smooth sometimes for some of these guys from the Bucks. But when you go back and either rewatch a half, rewatch a quarter, or just look at the play-by-play, they was bricking for big stretches that lost them the game. That 3 for 10 in the second half, that's how you lose a game. That's how you blow a lead. That 1 for 9 from Giannis, that's how you lose a game. That's how you blow a 12-point lead in the fourth. All right. Coach Bud, I got a laundry list. Refused to try to get somebody else on Jimmy when Drew was getting torched. Giannis mentioned he wanted to guard Jimmy. I'm like I said, Giannis, just do it. Just do it. Next time, just do it. Brook Lopez on the bench for the impound lob play. That beautiful lob play where I was talking about the ring around the Rosie. I remember thinking at the time, wait a minute, where's Brook at? Why is Giannis, as the Miami Heat were setting up the play, I remember because they were taking a couple seconds because the ref, when it's them crunch time inbounds, refs try to make sure the inbound passer has their space on, out of bounds, that the person defending the inbounds isn't crossing the plane, leaving the plane there. And so Giannis has got his hands up, and I'm like, dang, okay, Giannis inbound, defending the inbound, that makes sense. My brain goes, who's guarding Jimmy? I'm like, okay, it's Pat Connaughton and Drew Holiday. And then the lob comes, and Jimmy's the biggest person there to easily catch the lob and finish the alley-oop play. You know what would have been amazing? If Brook Lopez was on the ball, and then Jimmy could play free safety and be roaming around. And then Giannis could have been playing free safety, roaming around, and maybe he disrupts that lob pass. But no, Brook Lopez was on the bench. Even after the lob happens, Jimmy scores. It's like 0.8 left on the clock. Coach Bud doesn't call a timeout. They inbound the ball to Giannis. They go into overtime. You can see as the bucket is scored, you can see the assistant coaches start to stand up and get their clipboards together because they're getting ready for a timeout. And then when the ball is inbound, they're all like, whoa, what's going on? And they look at Bud, and I rewatched this clip like 10 times just to try to see what Bud was doing. Because when the basket is scored, Bud's hands do go up. And so I'm thinking, oh, maybe he did call a timeout and the refs couldn't see it. No, you had to slow it down and zoom in. His hands are like just up, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. Not timeout to advance the ball. So whatever, we go into overtime. Going to overtime, last play of overtime. Giannis gets a rebound, down 2 points, 9 seconds left, bringing the ball up the court. Trying to go full. They have 2 timeouts called. So they could have called a timeout. As soon as he gets the rebound, call a timeout. Now you have 9 seconds left. The ball's advanced. Call it before he puts the ball on the ground. The ball's advanced, right? Don't do that. So Giannis is dribbling up the court, trying to go full speed, try to blow past who? Jimmy Butler. Jimmy walls up, stops Giannis, forces him to pass the ball to Chris while Giannis is falling on the floor, almost falling out of bounds. Chris catches the ball with 5 seconds left. Chris doesn't decide to shoot the ball. Also an opportunity for a timeout there. Of course, timeout doesn't get called. Chris then tries to drive past Caleb Martin. Luckily, Max Strus is there to come over for the help. Chris Middleton then kicks the ball out to Jared Allen. Chris Middleton then kicks the ball out to Grayson Allen. At this point, it's like a second and a half, 2 seconds on the clock. Another opportunity to call for a timeout. Closeout happens on Allen. Allen looks to swing the ball to Drew, is on his right. I love this about Miami because while we're talking about the collapse of the Bucks and Bud, Miami on this last place played absolutely amazing, just rotation scramble defense. So like I said, Middleton tries to drive past Caleb Martin. Strus comes over to help. So Chris Middleton kicks it out to Grayson Allen. When Grayson Allen looks to pass it to Holloway, Strus sprints from the help off of Chris Middleton to close out on Holiday to close off the pass, which forces Grayson Allen to try to drive to the basket, do that Euro step. Time runs out. How do you not call a timeout there? I'm speechless. When it happened, I feel like even some of the Miami Heat guys was like, there's no way they didn't call a timeout. And apparently I didn't watch this guy's presser, but it was either Caleb Martin or Strus. I can't remember which one of those guys. The tweet said in their presser, they basically said that in between the overtime, regulation overtime when they're in the huddle, Eric Spoelstra was like, I can't believe that guy didn't call a timeout. Like, that's crazy to me. When the other coaches are even like, he didn't call a timeout. We respect him to call a timeout. We'll go to overtime and beat y'all. Sure. Thanks for the win. Absolutely insane. I'm not saying Coach Bud is going to get fired this offseason. You know, I'm not usually one of those guys who's like, well, fire the coach. I don't like people getting fired. It's, you know, it is what it is. People got to earn a living. But you got to take a hard look, Milwaukee. You got to take a hard look at Bud. Take a hard look. Look back over the season. Ask him to explain some of these decisions in the offseason. When you're talking to the GM, like, oh, we need to have a sit down. I need to know where your mind's at. Because we need to know if we need to get you up out of here because you're not coaching right in crunch situations. You're just not. He's a good scheme coach, overall stuff. He's good at setting up a system that a team just runs off of. Because also, wasn't there a stretch in game 4? Might have been game 4 or game 5. When the lead was getting dwindled, the Miami went on like a 9-0 run or something like that, and the timeout wasn't called. Like, he will just let his team just go. He's one of those coaches who does not call a timeout to stop the bleeding. He does not believe in stopping the bleeding. You will bleed out if you are a Coach Bud team. You will bleed out. You will. Last thing before we get up out of here, like I said, I was up to like 2 a.m. scrolling on Twitter last night after the game. Couldn't sleep. It was just adrenaline on 1,000. And the first tweet I saw when I opened up Twitter, it's from an account that I don't follow. Shout out to Twitter's new For You page. And usually I don't agree with most of their takes because they're all about, you know, their bag Twitter. You feel me? Tween, cross. And that's ball don't stop. Fun fact, I don't hate him. I respect his work. Don't get it wrong. As a aspiring creator myself, I definitely respect his work, what he's built, the platform he's built for himself. He know what he's doing. I just don't always agree with his takes. That's what I mean by I don't always agree with him. Respect his work and the hustle that he's doing. But truthfully, I don't always agree with his takes, so that's okay. You ain't got to agree with mine. That's also okay. He tweets at 12:46 in the morning last night, skill matters. And so much. At first, I was like, what is he talking about? And then it hit me, and then I got like tight for a second because like, oh, he's talking about bag Twitter. Giannis talking about a bag. And so I go in the thread and I scroll down and I said, seeing this, let him cook. And I said, you know what? He's not necessarily wrong because so much of why Bam was able to guard and stop Giannis, the reason the 1 for 9 happens, the reason the 1 for 4 happens in these fourth quarters is because all Giannis was trying to do was back up and drive and back up and drive. Or if it wasn't that, it was a simple post up. And all he was trying to do was muscle through hook shot, muscle through drop step, lay. And if the other defender can match the muscle and the speed and all that, I don't know. Maybe James Harden was on to something. You know, maybe James Harden was on to something. I don't know, man. I don't know. And it's crazy because I'm so serious. Based on trolling aside, based on just watching this series, Giannis really got to do some work in the offseason because, and the reason is why, because, and like I said, not every team has this personnel. Don't let me blow this out of proportion here. Not every team has this personnel. But in 2020, Miami Heat showed the NBA, if you build a wall, you can stop Giannis. And then people was building them walls for a little bit, and Giannis was struggling. Went on to win the championship. It is what it is. Congratulations on him, obviously, right? He beats the wall. And then in 2023, Miami goes, oh, if you got the personnel, you might be able to guard him one-on-one. Now, I'm not saying that's possible. Like, I'm not saying he's still not an all-time great. I'm not saying none of that. What I'm saying is, though, there are holes in his game. And I think that's a fair statement. And if you exploit those holes in his game, it can look really, really bad. Shout out to the Miami Heat, man. Once again, shout out to Jimmy Butler. Absolutely phenomenal series. If you ain't watched this series, you missed out. And also, NBA, I hate you for putting the Bucks and Heat game at the same time, basically, as the Warriors-Kings game, because all I truly know is that the Warriors won. I only saw like the last 3 minutes of that game. I ain't seen nothing else. I'm out of here. If you made it this far, you truly are a real one, because I have no idea how long this video was going to be. I had 4 pages of notes. I absolutely love this series and I wanted to talk about it. So if you made it this far, I don't ask for likes that often, but leave it a like. You know what I mean? It's going to take you 2 seconds. You are a real one, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm out. Peace.